Now it's time for Inspirational Women, and my guest, Jane Lee Rankin, sharing insights into her memoir, Farm Family, a solo mom's memoir of finding home, happiness, and alpacas. As Lee shares her experiences, her dreams, I feel there's strong encouragement here for all of us to trust in our dreams, that the path may be winding and might even feel impossible, but take it one step at a time, and that leads to a truly incredible place. Lee Rankin, good morning. It is so great to have you join us this morning.
Thank you. I am honored to be here.
Well, thank you for saying that. I feel actually the reciprocal, that I'm honored, because it's just always so fascinating to me to meet people, how many people, and you are here, a woman who's done so much in her life with these big dreams and, starting a farm with not having that as your roots. I mean, just that whole thought was overwhelming to me. I thought, how could a person do that? But you went ahead and you did that, and with an infant, and just, again, it's so amazing. Now, looking back, does it feel that amazing to you too?
It does. I walk around and think, I did this, like I'm on a piece of property that had a barn and a driveway and a house, and it now has a whole farm. So there was a old growth apple orchard here. The owners of the house that I bought the property from were doing nothing with the orchard. There was a derelict Christmas tree farm, and the owners were doing nothing with that. And we started from that and then turned it into a farm with animals, which is very different than things growing, because animals take fences and barns, and there's a lot to that.
Oh, and the nurturing animals would take. I mean, you need to do that, of course, with trees, with apple trees, with fruit trees, with
Mhm.
Christmas trees as well. But the animals require so much more. They're living. Well, trees are living beings. Okay,
They
living
are. They
entities.
are.
But it's different with animals. And
It
you
is.
have. Do I call it a zoo, a menagerie? Because there's so many different ones.
We call it a farm.
Farm.
The big joke is that we don't add up the number of animals that we have. We could tell you on any given day how many animals of each kind we have, but we don't add them up because we think it would be overwhelming.
Oh, how interesting! And it works. It's
Yeah.
all taken care of.
Yes.
And you've brought, well, let's say, a business to the area because you have staff. So, where people didn't have that opportunity, here's a great opportunity for them. So, you've really created just an incredible life.
It really is an incredible life. And we have an incredible team of young people, some young and some older, a lot of college students that work with us, a lot of young people that are just out of college. And we pride ourselves on being a place to work that they love to work in,
Mhm.
but that they also leave a better employee than they came.
I mean, how could you ask for anything better? I mean, that's the ideal. That's what we,
Right?
yes,
Right?
really, yes. Oh, that's beautiful that exists. And in the context of this is a term that, if I knew it, it was really in the back of my mind. But agritourism is what you've developed from this too. And was that actually a vision, or did that evolve for you?
No, that was not a vision. Our goal was to raise, breed, and sell alpacas, and as well as show, because there's alpaca shows where you go and show your animals and prove that you have the best animals and that yours are award winning, and then it's easier to sell them. So that's what we were going to do. That we had no intention of including the public in the mixture. And I defined agritourism as being a farm plus people. So it's bringing people onto the farm for any number of reasons. It could be a farm stay, it could be an event, it could be educational, it could be a tour. So our biggest piece of agritourism right now is that we do tours of our farm. It takes about an hour to tour the farm. We limit it to 15 people. It's guided by one of our team members. So it's a walking guided educational tour. And we get people from all ages, from all over, that come to tour the farm and meet the animals.
That is so beautiful. And you, of course, were one of the original tour guides because it's your
Obviously,
farm, right?
obviously, obviously. And I still am. I still am from time to depends on, I mean, like right now I'm not touring.
Yeah.
Right this moment I'm not because we're talking. And I do still do tours. Generally, though, it's our team members and our tour guides that take the tours out.
Now, all of this wind back some many years, all started with an encounter with an alpaca, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So in 2000, I went to the Kentucky State Fair. I think it was it's the first time I remembered going to the Kentucky State Fair. And I had Will, who was my 1-year-old, with me. And we were wandering through the animal barns. And I came face to face with an alpaca, and literally time stopped, the room disappeared. It was just me and that alpaca. And as a result of that, I decided that's what I wanted to do, was to raise alpacas. So that was the beginning of the dream. I didn't say anything to anybody for a while. I talked about meeting the alpaca, but I didn't let anybody know that I had this dream, and I sort of held on to it and let it grow. And a year later, we were in the process of moving here to start an alpaca farm.
Here being North Carolina.
North Carolina. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
in Kentucky and Louisville, Kentucky before that. So we had found a house, we had sold the house, we had moved, and we were in the process of moving here almost a year later. Like October 1st, we were here, lock, stock, and barrel. Dog, child, me, the lawnmower we brought, the
Oh,
riding
yeah.
lawnmower that came with us named George. Um, yeah, so it took about a little over a year, and it's interesting, I find myself feeling very honored that I had a dream and that I held it closely and I followed. And it is that process of thinking, I want to do something, and then taking one step after another, and keeping that dream alive.
And that I feel is so significant in this, in your story, in this whole story,
Mhm.
in being really like a map or a vision for any of us, that you were aware, you were sensitive enough to your surroundings to read those signs and then to respond to them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's, go ahead.
And we do that all the time. We decide we want a job working in XYZ, or we decide that we want to be in a relationship, or we want to have children. We do that throughout our lives. This just happens to be a very obvious and compelling dream.
And it really has felt so significant to me because I think it happens, but often people, this is so generalizing, but often they'll just discount it like, oh, that's for somebody else. Oh, it doesn't mean anything. But uh, I think we are given these moments of insight, of intuition that really
Mhm.
are significant if we really honor them,
Mhm. I agree.
right? And so you did that. Yeah,
So I
honored,
did,
yeah.
yeah. And here I am. And what started out as raising alpacas ended up being alpacas, llamas, donkeys. We rescued a horse that was pregnant and lame and sick. And it just took on a life of its own, as life does, right? It's never a straight path. There's always a lot of input from God and the universe that changes our path. And it was because of all the animals that we then became a story, and people kept hearing the story in town. It's a very small town that I live in. I actually live between two very small towns, and one has 1,000 people year round, and the other one, I'm not even sure it's not really a, a certified town. So I don't know that there's a number of how many people are there, but everybody knows each other and welcomes guests that come to the area in a very open and welcoming way, and tells them stories. And so my story was one of the stories that got told, and people would literally drive up our driveway. And we are at the top of the mountain at the end of a gravel road, and there's no other place to go when you get here. I mean, you're here. When you pull up our driveway, you made it. And so, being in the South and being the kind of person that I am, I couldn't just say, no, see you later, So I would engage with them, and 45 minutes later, they would leave having heard the story of the farm. And so we decided that made sense to open a time that people could come and hear the story, and we could really walk them around the property.
And isn't it wonderful to look at how that evolution occurs, that you didn't see all of that happening, but you acted
No,
on what was happening in the moment, the connection with the alpaca, finding this wonderful location, and making that big move with an infant son.
right, right.
Yeah. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be overwhelming, daunting for so many, and yet you held so true to your vision.
Yeah. Well, and it was one thing at a time. So first it was finding a place to live. And when I drove here with my son and the dog, we came and for a weekend to find a place to stay so we could look for property. That's how it started. And, and I had that voice in the back of my head going, "You're nuts. You're leaving whatever support system you have to go check this out." And I was like, "Nah, it's okay. If I'll find something to rent for a month." And then when I came to stay for a month, I heard, "You are crazy to think about moving someplace where you don't know anybody." And I kept hearing, "If it's the right thing to do, I'll find a piece of property I can't say no to."
Hmm.
And I did. Like within 2 weeks, I found this property. Took me a lot longer to figure out this was the property, but it was pretty clear. And people say, "How did you find this?" And I'm like, "Well, it was for sale when I was looking." That's how I found it. I mean, and it is, we all live someplace that happened to be open at the time we were looking. And it really is a function of that. And so I trusted that. We ended up moving. It happened very fast. And the rest is history. And here we are, like 20 something years later with this what I expected to be this very peaceful alpaca lifestyle, which is now this very thriving farm with people on a daily basis. We're actually open year round. So we are open 7 days a week for public tours in our season, which is mid-May to October. But the rest of the year, we are available almost year round, like every day. So you can come shop the store, you could come take a private tour, you could come take a public tour. So we have this, it's a very thriving business. We have a store, so you can come and visit the store and buy products. And that's the easiest way for us to open the farm is for the store because the tour takes, 45 minutes to an hour and scheduling. And we're also taking care of animals. So it has to be that we have enough people on board to be able to bring somebody in, and take you around the farm.
Right.
So.
And out of that evolved this book, which I'm sure must be located right in this store as well. But didn't you have someone, a visitor, saying, "Well, how did this all come about?"
Yeah, we
Right?
did. We did. So there's a hill that we at near the end of the tour that we go up, and there's goats up on that hill. And it seemed to me it was more than once that somebody would stop, we would stop on that hill, and they would look at me with this question of kind of like, "What, how, why did you do this?" Like that big question. They would sort of get the enormity of what the farm was, and then they would look at me and go, "How?" And so I responded to it a couple of times by saying it would take a book to answer. And that was sort of the beginnings of the idea of the book. And somebody somewhere along the way said, "If you're going to write a book, you really need to answer a question." And I was like, "Well, that'd be a great question to answer in a book." And I started it as a nonfiction book about the story of starting the farm. And it was going to be very nonfiction. And it very quickly turned to memoir. So even it had its own path.
Yes. But isn't it interesting again? It was, someone dropping this little nugget of an
Hmm.
idea or the question. They dropped the question.
Right,
You said it would take a book, and all of a sudden, oh, it's a
right,
light. One
right.
of those light bulb moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and yes, so a memoir which really gives us such great insights. And again, I think we learn so greatly from stories, from each other's stories. We get insights, encouragement. And so reading your story really gives us so many of those enlightening moments, I feel.
Yes. And one of my goals, because as I was writing it, I had certain goals, not just, to get this part written by a certain date or to get it done by a certain date, but goals for the reader. And one of my goals in writing it was I wanted people to feel the cold of the barn as I sat willing an animal to live in the middle of the night.
Mm.
Because there were so many times that I had experiences like that, and not everybody gets to have that experience. Not everybody gets to have the experience of animals being born and witnessing that and being there to support the animal, the mother, as she goes through that process. It's not an experience that people have on a daily basis. So I really wanted to give that to the readers of the book.
And I would say you've accomplished that, right? That you have a talent with language, with being able to really draw with words that picture and get those experiences right into our psyche, into our hearts.
Mhm.
Right?
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I feel so. And Farm Family as a memoir really, I think, reaches into us and gives us such a huge opportunity, to have this really a vicarious experience of being
Mhm.
on this beautiful farm property.
Yes. Yes. And it's what's funny in it being it's been out in since January. So in the process of releasing the book, what's been so exciting for me is the number of men that have read it.
Mm.
So I think of a woman's, solo journey as a memoir being a very woman's book, right? And time again, a couple will buy the book and I'll get a note from the wife, and it's like, well, my husband got it, and I can't get it till he puts it down, and he can't put it down. And it's been so heartening to see the number of men who have found a lot out of the book. And I think the farm side is part of what pulls them in to some extent. But there has been so many men that have read the book cover to cover, and then they'll tell me, I don't read, and I don't read books. And furthermore, I wouldn't dare read a memoir. And then they've read the whole thing cover to cover.
It's like, what kind of magic spell did you cast upon me to have me do this? Well, it's so gripping. We've really focused here on the culmination of your life for the last couple of so decades, but really, as you go into your past, you talk about your son. Will grew up on this wonderful
Mhm.
property on this farm, but you were a single mother. And this happened almost really as a miracle because you had gone through breast cancer treatment,
Mhm. Mhm.
survived that, and got pregnant. So there's all this part of your life that, women can really relate to. And I'm glad men are reading it because that really gives them an important insight into the women in their lives.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure it does.
But you were going through all that. So I think it's so important for us to understand how there are so many huge milestones along the way in our lives. It's not just this final what we're seeing here with this
Mhm.
wonderful farm,
Yeah,
but overcoming these things, and it didn't get you down. It in fact, if anything, it probably strengthened you.
I think it did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just so amazing to overcome that. And I found that interesting with the breast cancer. You were really in control of that, making choices as to what kind of treatment you would have because you
Mhm.
still had the dream of having a child someday.
Right. Right. I did. Yes. Yes.
And it
And then I did.
and then you had the
I did and
child.
I did.
Yes. Yeah, much as though some doctors didn't think that you should really continue with the pregnancy.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that was terrifying to me. I had no idea that would be an answer to me being pregnant at all.
Yeah.
Um, it was the last answer I thought I would get from a doctor was that you need to end this pregnancy. And I hadn't thought about it from his point of view. It made sense. And from my point of view, it didn't make sense. But I certainly did not expect that response.
Yes.
And he was somebody that I very, very much trusted and had been through a lot with because I'd gone through surgery with him. And, there had been, and lots of choices about what I was going to do in response to having had cancer.
Hmm.
And then to have that be the response, I was floored. Yeah.
Yeah. But fortunately for you, for
Yeah.
Will, well, for all of us, that you really followed what you knew to be true. And I think it takes so much strength for any of us to really have that strength within us to know that what we need to hold true, not to be swayed by a professional's opinion,
Right.
right? We
Hmm.
know what's good for us.
Right. Right. Well, and I was also carrying Will at the time, and I feel like that his presence, right, at that point was also part of what gave me strength through all of it.
Mm.
You know, many things, many times that I might have just crumpled under what had happened, I had kept going because I had a son. And, they wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and they're ready to go and they're happy and they're excited and it's another day. And his presence and being around with him, raising him really, in a way, kind of re-raised me in a whole new way. I mean, I got to live vicariously through him. I
Mm.
mean, all the cool stuff to do happens when you've got a little guy with you, like all of that stuff.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's interesting because here I am finding myself in this business of agritourism, which is people coming to farms. And it's the kind of thing that we do with children, but we might not do alone. Although in agritourism, we do. So adults come and tour the farm because they're interested in learning about farming and they're looking for things to do. And it's the kind of thing we would do with a child. And it brings back some of that excitement of a child of seeing animals. And one of my favorite things is when people come to the farm and we sort of laugh because we greet the cars as they come, right? And so the dogs go out and greet the people as they come, get out of their cars. And you can tell if a car's had a fight on the way there.
Yeah.
And Johnny forgot his shoes and Susie doesn't have her sweater and maybe somebody was late getting up and whatever. And they come out and then our role that we take on is changing that experience, really giving them a different experience, which is a slower life and a slower experience as we walk around the farm. We don't drive, we walk. So it's a slow paced kind of time on a farm with time to interact with the animals and to ask questions and get questions answered and hear stories. Many of our animals have stories, and many of our tour guides have stories about things that have happened since they've worked here. So it's a chance to tell stories. And we don't give ourselves that kind of
Mm.
experience very often. So when people ask, what are you selling? It's like, well, we're selling a tour, but really we're selling an experience and a connection and a reconnection. We do things like everybody who comes to the farm, when they take a tour, they get a name tag so that if you're on a tour with 5 other people, you have a chance to learn their names. And interestingly, it helps while you're here on the farm. It helps the tour guides. It helps the tour guide's name. They have a name tag on. It just breaks down a little bit of that barrier. But many times we hear back that people will each meet each other in town in a restaurant and they know each other's names. So it even develops that connection when they leave the farm.
Mm. Oh, it is, it's so huge what this small experience, small because it's,
Mhm.
maybe a dozen or more a few more people on his tour, and it's just you doing what you love and sharing it with others, as do your
Mhm.
employees as well,
Mhm.
because they're loving it. But in being able to connect with each other and see each other, I just see that this is then kind of the model for what our world needs, this connection of, I know
Mhm.
your name, we can connect, and we've had this. Well, animals help us to feel more peaceful. They have a way of
They
bringing
do.
that out,
They do.
right? Yes.
Yeah, they do. As do the mountains. I mean, these mountains are full of crystal, and I'm sure it has something to do with the age of these mountains and some of the oldest mountains in the
Mm.
country. And there's that, and there's the views, and it's just a really wonderful experience. And people come back, even though they arrive having, all this tension in their face, and you can tell they've been fighting. they arrive back from the tour. The tour ends in the store. We took a note from Disney on that one. So we end the tour in the store, and people come into the door of the store and they are lit up, smiling and laughing with each other. And it's a huge gift to give to the world right now.
Yes, I really feel that, and I'm glad you realize that too.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those. Do we call it a byproduct? It's something that was there, but you're making it come to life gives this
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
the opportunity to people to really experience and to be part of, well, the solution of going
Yes.
forward. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that is so wonderful. So here, so the store again, we're here to talk about your memoir, Farm Family. It's a great place to, or a focus of conversation to talk about all these other things. But it's also your second book because you first had an amazing new cookbook. An amazing cookbook. It's not new because this is new. But so that's another part of you that is just so amazing, inspiring that you love to cook. In fact, you have a degree in culinary arts.
Yeah, I went to school at CIA, Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, and as a result of that, wrote a cookbook. And it was not my recipes. It was Annie Johnson, who had worked for our family growing up. She was the backbone of our family. And after culinary school, I went back and asked her if she would let me, put her recipes in writing and create a book. And so the book's a tribute to her and all
Mhm.
she did for our family.
Which
She was,
that
yeah,
story
she was
is,
an amazing woman, amazing woman.
yeah, it
So,
sounded like it. She sounded like this very important role model in your life.
yes, very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so. I was the only girl in the family, and I had three older brothers, and I needed as much support as I could get.
And there
They were not awful, but I definitely needed support.
and then what happens? You have a son, but isn't that
Mhm.
perfect? I mean, you this has been the best place for him to have grown
Yes.
up.
Oh, and one of the things when I look back on it, one of the smartest things I did was start a farm as a place to raise a child, because it was the perfect upbringing for he was very gregarious. And when we would travel and go to a restaurant, he would go around and invite people to our table. He was very age 2 and 3, he was very gregarious, so he needed a lot of room. And it was one of the smartest things I did, and he got to be part of the birth and death of animals. And he is compassionate and grounded. He's such a great, I say kid, but he's a man. He's
Young man.
24.
Yeah.
He's a young man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, well, it's an incredible story. And again, here we are with coming back to story and how important it is for us to share, for us to learn from each other. We can get so much encouragement. It gives us hope, helps us to dream as well and see that dreams can come true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And interestingly, I was just teaching a class in Tennessee, and I said at the end of it, I said, I was 40 when I started the farm. Like, I wasn't even young.
Yeah,
I wasn't 20. I was
right.
40 when I started the farm. So there's no time like the present.
Yeah, don't make age any kind of number. Don't disregard
Right.
it. It is
Right.
just a number. No,
Right.
right? Yes. Well, this has been so wonderful to connect with you, Lee. I love your memoir. I love the farm, and we let's mention the website so that people might be intrigued, might be planning vacations, and get out into those mountains. Makes it certainly is drawing me. There's a call. So the website
Okay.
is.
So the website is Apple Hill Farm NC for North Carolina.com. Very simply, applehillfarmnc.com. And the book is available on the website. It's also available on Amazon. Anywhere you go, you can get it. It's under the name of Jane Lee Rankin. Jane is my first name, so we used Jane Lee Rankin as the author on the book. There's also a website for my writing, which is janeleerankin.com. That's more book focused. And I think that's it. And we're on Facebook and Instagram and most of the socials, not
Yeah.
all the socials. Some of Facebook and Instagram are the main socials we do. So,
Wonderful. As this has been, it's so wonderful to connect with you. I
Yeah.
love what you have created in and with your life. And thank you so greatly for sharing some of that with us this morning.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
That brings us to the end of a very full hour of Inspirational Women with Lee Rankin and Sunday Morning Magazine with Barbara Fagan. I'm Kate Daniels, your host, and I greatly appreciate your sharing this hour with me and these special guests. For details you might have missed or information you'd like to know, please just send me an email, kated@warm1069.com, and I will get right back to you. Also, if you'd like to listen again or just share these important stories with your family and friends, find the podcast on our Warm 1069 webpage. Just click on the Listen tab, then Podcasts, then either of the show names, and then look for the guest names. I now wish you and your family a day of considering our relationships, of the role we have to play in making the world a better place. Have a week of the same, and then please plan to join me again next weekend for another hour of Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women on Warm 1069. Good morning.